What's up? This is the second reason video, take number 2 actually. I used the word too many times in the last video, driving me crazy. Today's reason video, I'm going to focus on the ReDrum. I'm going to probably have the next couple videos focus on the ReDrum depending on what I can get done. This is from the last video. What I'm going to focus on today, I guess you could say what the keyword today is going to be, is triggering. So what we're going to do is we're going to work on using our ReDrum as a trigger and using other instruments to trigger the ReDrum as well. Excuse me, not other instruments, other utilities. So a cool thing to do is, the ReDrum, I should say, is one of the cooler. I'm going to start labeling a little bit. A lot you can do in the ReDrum. I think it gets overlooked now with all the other instruments, but when you first got Reason back in the day, it was one of the driving forces behind it. So let's load up. Quick trick if you're having troubles coming up with patterns. I found a cool, shouldn't say cool, I found a fun way, I guess you could say, to practice. Is it bringing your Dr. Rex loop player, run a loop, and then try to match the pattern with your ReDrum player. It's a good way to get some practice on the ReDrum. So just if you're needing some practice on that, because I know it's not for everybody, but once you get the hang of it, it's not too bad. So I'm not doing much as far, and I'll kind of just go into anything different I'm doing, but all we're doing now is we're just going to load up everything I'm going to use for these videos. Is I've kind of come to the decision they're going to be all factory sounds. So we're just going to load up a random hip-hop kit. This is the one I used in the last video, and I actually like the hi-hat sound, so we're going to use this. Everything is going to stay the same as far as all my parameters. The thing I will be changing on a couple of these is the dynamics, which just is how hard it will hit. So if you see soft, medium, and hard. So that's the only thing I'll be doing as far as changing the parameters for this episode on the ReDrum. In a perfect world, I would be taking each individual channel. So this would be my kick drum. I would patch this out into my main inputs. And that would be my first, I guess it comes here wherever, my first channel. That way, somehow I got two. There we go. That way when you, and I'll start doing that when I get my Pro Tools back, but if you have each individual part of the drum in its own separate channel, it allows you to mix it and be more creative with it. The way that Reason initially patches it is the entire drums getting set to one channel, which doesn't allow you to do a whole bunch as far as mixing goes. But just for this, we're just going to keep it how it is. Oh, okay. Need to get my Diet Coke. So let me throw together something quick here. I want to do something easy. Again, I don't want this to focus on the actual sounds we make. I just want to kind of focus on the tricks and the techniques we use, and that way you can try using them in your music, because the way I look at it, you're probably better and more talented than I could ever be on this. So if you have the tips and the tricks, then your music should obviously start sounding better. So I'm not really focused on the sounds that we make. That would just take me a long time to come out with like the perfect snare drum or whatever, So we're just going to kind of put together what we can, and the key is just the techniques we're using. So let's get this first loop sequenced here. Obviously, I'll pay a little bit of attention. Okay. Okay. So there's a quick little drum sample. Sorry, quick little drum loop we're going to use. Okay, so I don't even have my MIDI keyboard hooked up today. Which is fine, because that's kind of what we're... that's kind of what we're focusing on, is triggering. Okay, so the next step I would have is I would want to lay some sort of bass. Well, I don't have any MIDI controller, and I think it's probably going to be easier. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. Like I can hear the bass in my head, so I can easily step sequence that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a ReDrum to trigger my bass instrument, or my synth, I should say. So what we're going to do is I'm going to drag another ReDrum in, but this time I'm actually going to hold shift when I bring it in. What that's going to do is not patch it to anything. I'm going to label this my trigger. Actually, bass. This is going to be my bass trigger. Okay. And we're not going to hear anything because we don't have anything patched. What we can do... Bum, 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 bum. And we'll see how that does. Doesn't do it this way. I'm just doing it first. So, actually, we'll take this off. So we have our unpatched ReDrum, which we renamed our bass trigger. We now need our synthesizer to play the bass. I'm going to let this automatically patch itself to our main console. There's our outputs going into the main console. And still our ReDrum's not patched at all. So now what we're going to do is... From past experience, I know that this bass is very weak sounding. So, one of these right around here hits pretty hard. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come up with our pattern here. I'm just going to throw something together. Should sound okay. And see, we hit run, nothing's working because this isn't patched in. So what we want to do is we're working with, hold on here, we're working with channel 1. So see, we have channel 1, nothing selected on channel 2, nothing on channel 3, and so on. So we go to channel 1, we're going to come gate out. We're taking the output of our channel 1, which are these individual steps, and we're going to feed that into our synth with the gate in. So we'll check this later, but the only difference you'll see between this instrument and the other instruments on Reason is it might just be a different spot to plug your gate into. But we can go over that with other instruments later on. So we took our bass trigger, we took the gate out of it. The gate out is going to give us these individual steps, and it's going to trigger this bass sound, the D&B bass, every time we make a step. So let's hear it. Of course, this one's a little quiet. There we go. And you can see everywhere we have our, we can just do this to, so just so you can see. So what we did is we used our ReDrum to trigger. We used our gate out of our channel 1, which is where we did our step sequencing, which was on channel 1. We took that gate and we're using that to trigger our bass. Okay, perfect. So that's one of the quick tricks you can do. Now what we're going to do, since we have since we have a little bit of time here, I'm going to do another one, which is going to be the opposite. So we already have all these. Now what we're going to do is we're going to patch in our ReDrum, and we're going to let it patch itself. There it is, going to our out. This one's going to be named, I keep doing that. What do we want to name this one? Matrix Funk. I love this one because you just never know what you're going to get. So we have our ReDrum, and it's normally patched into our control. What we're going to do now is we're going to go to utilities. We're going to add the best utility ever, which is a matrix pattern sequencer. I'm going to hold shift down so it doesn't patch anything in. Nothing. This is one of my favorite instruments, utilities, whatever you want to call it, on Reason. It allows you to do so much stuff with just these 3 little inputs and outputs. So what we're going to do now is I want to find a unique sound. Oh, where did I find that? You can probably hear the fish tank on the background. On all the videos, let's do a glitch. Perfect. Okay, so we'll go into the parameters and all the schooling of all this stuff probably in another episode when I break down the matrix a little bit more, but I'm sure you can just Google stuff if you really wanted to learn more about the voltage control and all that kind of stuff. But right now I just want to get out there the way to do this stuff so you can practice it on your own music and make it sound good. So what we're going to do here is we're going to switch this to curve edit mode. What we're going to do here is we're going to take the one up here, we actually took our gate out and used it to trigger the synth. So this one we're actually going to use our matrix, and we're going to use that to trigger the channel 1 of our ReDrum. So we're going to take our curve CV and we're going to put that into our pitch CV in. Okay, and then we're going to take our gate CV, and instead of doing it to the out, we're going to do it to the in. So you see gate in of channel 1 here. Oh, missed it. Gate in. So now you have the gate, which is what we know from up here, is what's going to pretty much your note on, note off. It's going to trigger it, and your curve should handle your pitches or frequencies. So what I'm going to do here, just with my mouse, And that didn't turn out quite like I wanted. I'm just going to draw this in real quick. Then we'll run this. So here's the sound. Here's what we do with our matrix, is triggering it and is handling our pitch and so then down here is your gate, so you can actually, this would pretty much be note off, right? Okay, I could sit around playing with that for an hour trying to find a good sound. So that's the other trick you can do. So okay, so that's kind of a couple quick tricks you can do with the ReDrum. So we use the ReDrum in the way I guess you could say it was meant to be. We make it our drum loop. We then use the ReDrum as a trigger to trigger our synth right here by using our gate out. We plugged in a 1, 9, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 pattern. That is we're using that step sequencer to trigger the bass synth. Then we did the opposite, where we loaded up a sound to sample on our channel 1, and we used our matrix voltage controls to trigger the ReDrum. Yeah, so there you go. It's actually New Year's Eve, and I plan on putting up more Reason videos. Just waiting for my Pro Tools iLock to come in. Finally getting out of Pro Tools 8 and moving on to Pro Tools 12, as sad as it is. So waiting for that to come in, and I will definitely be doing more Reason videos. So if you like them, just let me know you like them, and if you're interested in an instrument or a utility or an effect or something you want me to go into more, you can just let me know. Or if you're looking for, you like these tips and tricks, again, I'm going to try to keep them short, so like when my kids use them, they can just get on, see what to do, and plug them in, and then you can just sit there, I'm telling you, for hours. And I mean, just especially if you have more than just a factory sound banks, you can just sit in there until you find something just perfect. Well, I don't want to worry about how something sounds because it could take me all day to find something that sounded great. So yeah, so hopefully those were helpful to you and help make your music sound better. And thanks for watching, and hopefully more Reason videos to come. Take it easy.